Imagine you're working a normal 9 to 5 every day of the week, 40-hour weeks, stuff like that. Imagine working, getting to Friday and think, wow, can't wait for that paycheck. Can't wait for the money to come in so I can pay for bills, pay for whatever I need to pay for. And then just not getting any of it. That's day-to-day life for student athlete. Student athletes for colleges are not getting paid. The only thing that they are able to get money from are scholarships and books, stuff like that, stuff to help out. But when it comes to students that are living off campus, sometimes they give you a little stipend for some rent, but it's usually not enough. In big cities like Iowa City, expensive rent, expensive places like that, they're not giving you near enough to pay for rent. I think the athletes, for the first part of this speech, I think I'm just going to say that the athletes, they bring in all the money. They bring in the fans, they bring in the competition, stuff like that, just the competitive nature. Without them, there wouldn't be sports. Without the competitive nature, this university wouldn't make any money. With all that's happening in today's sports world, with the injuries, the brain trauma from football, stuff like that, these student athletes are putting their bodies and brains on the line so they can have a shot at the next level of the NFL, NBA, or because they love the game so much. And I think that they should be reimbursed for making all that money. The NCAA sells jerseys, they sell shirts, they sell merchandise, such stuff like that, and sometimes the NCAA will put numbers on it, like of certain players, but they won't put the last name on it so that they can't get in trouble for not giving that player money, because student athletes cannot make money off their name and likeness, stuff like that. They sell the tickets for the games. They are sitting there. Without them, there wouldn't be people paying to come and see these games if there were no student athletes, stuff like that. And the NCAA makes over $11 billion in annual revenue, so if you're making $11 billion, the least you can do is spring that on some of the kids that are making all the money for you, because the NCAA definitely isn't making all that money for themselves. Not only are they putting their bodies and minds on the line, but they must treat it like a day job. The average student spends 43.3 hours a day or a week on their sport. It's 3 hours more than the average work week. So, and still no money is given to them, like I said before. The NCAA claims that these athletes are just students, but the NCAA takes them away from their student duties for like classes, stuff like that, for games across the country. That big March Madness tournament at the end of the year, they always are there for some days, sometimes 3 weeks at a time. They don't get a lot of face-to-face interaction with their teachers, stuff like that, so they always have to like grind and get it done on their own. Like 2014, the college football playoff championship was on a Monday night, which forced the Florida State football team to miss the first day of the spring semester. So they didn't even get to go to syllabus day, stuff like that. They don't know where their classes are. They didn't have that. Weren't able to find their classes. Weren't able to go to their classes. Weren't able to sit down, see what the teacher expected from them. They all had to just play it by ear. And back in 1905, the NCAA only said players aren't allowed to make money is because they also weren't paying the coaches. But as you can see now, some of the coaches get paid so much money, and the players aren't getting any of it. But that was their thing. They said, oh, players aren't getting paid, coaches aren't getting paid, but now the coaches are getting paid, so we need to open the door for the players to be the ones also to get paid. The coaches are sometimes the highest paid state paid person. Like our own UNI basketball coach, Ben Jacobson, makes about $900,000 a year, and Kirk Ferentz makes over $1 million just from coaching sports. And so if they're making almost that much just from coaching these kids, they wouldn't have a job if these kids weren't here. So pay them. And then the base of a full-ride scholarship is just not nearly enough as it's needed. Yeah, they get their school paid for. Yeah, they get their books and stuff paid for. But when it comes to living, being able to eat, they get stipends, but those stipends just aren't nearly enough to afford housing, groceries, and all that. So they should be able to make money off of themselves because it is like a job. It is like this and that. So even when you have like an internship and they pay for your housing and your food and stuff, you still do get paid. So if you were, if any other job would pay you for the work that you're doing, except for being a college athlete. And then um, there are cases all around, and the NCAA isn't a good organization either. They're cruel, they're crooked, they only care about how much money they're making. Like, there have been cases like just this past year, the number one prospect in college basketball was suspended for 12 games because of, in high school, he took money from Penny Hardaway, who is the coach for the Memphis University basketball team, but was not the coach at the time. But they still suspended him, even though he was not coaching or had anything to do with the team. He was just a alumni and a booster, so stuff like that, just to help the kid out with his family problems and stuff like that. And their transfer rule is terrible, stuff like that. This Luke Ford tried to transfer from the University of Georgia to the University of Illinois because his grandfather was not doing very well and he wanted to play close to home so his grandfather could watch him play for the final time of his career. And the NCAA said no, ruled him ineligible for the last football season, and his grandpa had just passed away about 3 months ago. So he was never able to fulfill the promise that he promised his grandfather. In conclusion, the players are the ones who are bringing in all the money, all the fans, all the merchandise sales, all that, and they are not getting any of the money that is being made off of it. And I think that overall the NCAA is crooked and money hungry, and they only care about themselves and making money other than these players. Because if they were, they would be thinking about what these players' lives are going to be like after college, because they weren't able to go to class as much. They weren't able to just be in class and be around all the needed materials that they could have been if they were just students, or being able to get paid so they could afford basic needs. And for a decent amount of athletes, college sports is a dream to them, and that's the only way that they are able to make it to the next level and play in college. So the fact that the NCAA is using that against them, just saying, oh, well, we're giving you free college, so you're pretty much just going to do whatever we want, going to play whenever we want, practice whenever we want, and just have to deal with it, is pretty bad. So.